What if I told you there's a secret weapon that could completely improve the way you study? A method so powerful that you'll never have to reread your textbooks again. Imagine, you read something once, just once, and it becomes permanently stuck in your memory, like a tattoo on your brain. No more panicking the night before an exam because everything you studied last week has mysteriously vanished from your mind. This is a scientifically backed, battle-tested method that transformed my academic life and helped me achieve a 98% average in high school and dominate every single exam in medical school. Here's the brutal truth that most students never discover: your brain isn't broken, the way you're studying is. Right now, you're probably treating your mind like a leaky bucket, pouring information in and watching it drain out just when you need it most. You read the same chapter 5 times, highlighting every other sentence until your textbook looks like a rainbow. But come test day, your mind goes completely blank. Sound familiar? You're not alone in this struggle. And more importantly, you're not doomed to repeat this cycle forever. Let me share something fascinating about how your brain actually works. Your mind is like the world's most sophisticated computer, but it operates on one fundamental principle that most students completely ignore. Your brain remembers information exponentially better when it's connected to other pieces of information, like building an intricate web of knowledge rather than storing isolated facts. Think of it like constructing a house. If you just pile bricks randomly, they'll collapse instantly. But if you connect each brick to others with strong mortar, you create an unshakable foundation that can withstand any storm. Most students make a fatal error when they encounter new information. Let's say your biology textbook states that the nephron is the basic unit of the kidney. The typical student reads this sentence and immediately thinks, okay, I need to memorize this fact. So they repeat it mindlessly: nephron is the unit of the kidney. Nephron is the unit of the kidney, like some kind of academic mantra. But here's what happens next, and this is where everything falls apart. A week later during the exam, they vaguely remember the word nephron, but they have absolutely no idea what it actually means or why it matters. They're forced to guess, and usually, they guess wrong. But what if I told you there's a completely different approach, one that transforms that same sentence into an unforgettable mental picture? Instead of mindlessly repeating that the nephron is the basic unit of the kidney, what if you took 30 seconds to understand the complete story? You'd think, oh, the nephron is like a microscopic filtration system, and the kidney contains millions of these tiny filters working together like a massive water treatment plant, each one cleaning blood and removing waste, which is exactly why it's called the basic unit, because the entire kidney is constructed from millions of these incredible biological machines. Now you're not just remembering random words, you're remembering a vivid, complete picture, and pictures are virtually impossible to forget. This brings us to my revolutionary 2-step method that will transform your studying forever. Step 1 is called blurt and understand, and step 2 is test and repeat. These aren't just catchy names. They're the keys to unlocking your brain's true potential. Let me explain step 1 in detail. The blurt part means after you read any passage, you immediately close your book and explain what you just learned out loud, as if you're teaching it to a 7-year-old. Don't peek at the text, don't cheat. Just use your own words and see what comes out. This forces your brain to actively retrieve the information rather than passively absorbing it. It's like doing mental push-ups. Your brain gets stronger every single time you do this exercise. Here's a practical example. You just read that acetylcholine is the chemical messenger that converts nerve signals into muscle contractions. Close the book and blurt it out. Okay, so there's this chemical called acetyl something, and it's like a translator that helps my brain talk to my muscles when I want to move. But we're not finished yet, because blurting alone isn't enough. Now comes the understand part, which is where the real magic happens. You ask the powerful questions that most students never think to ask. But how does this actually work? Why does this process exist? What would happen if this chemical wasn't there? So you dig deeper and discover that there's actually a physical gap between your nerve and muscle, like a canyon that electrical signals can't cross. So acetylcholine acts like a bridge, carrying the message across this biological divide and triggering the muscle to contract. Suddenly, you don't just know what acetylcholine is, you understand its entire purpose and function in the grand symphony of human movement. Step 2 is equally crucial, and it's called test and repeat. Here's a surprising fact about your brain: it's actually designed to forget information. And this isn't a flaw, it's a feature. Your brain constantly evaluates what information is important and what can be discarded, like a librarian deciding which books to keep and which to throw away. But here's the key insight: your brain determines importance based on frequency of use. If you keep accessing certain information, your brain thinks, "This must be important. I better hold onto this permanently." This is where spaced repetition becomes your secret weapon. You don't test yourself every day, which would be exhausting and inefficient. Instead, you follow a strategic pattern. Test yourself today, then again in 2 days, then in 4 days, then in 1 week, then in 2 weeks. Each time you successfully recall the information, you extend the interval before the next test. Your memory gets stronger and stronger, like a muscle that's being systematically trained. You can use flashcard apps like Anki, or simply maintain a notebook where you track what needs to be reviewed and when. Let me share how this method completely transformed my academic life. Before discovering this approach, I was the king of inefficient studying. I'd spend countless hours reading the same chapters repeatedly, highlighting until my textbooks looked like abstract art, but I'd still forget everything during exams. I was working harder than everyone else but getting mediocre results, which was incredibly frustrating and demoralizing. Then I implemented this two-step method, and everything changed overnight. Instead of reading for hours, I'd spend 30 minutes reading and understanding, then 10 minutes creating strategic flashcards. The results were absolutely mind-blowing. My grades skyrocketed from average to a consistent 98%. But more importantly, I stopped living in constant fear of forgetting information. I developed unshakable confidence because I knew that once I learned something using this method, it would become a permanent part of my knowledge base. In medical school, where memorizing thousands of complex facts about human anatomy and physiology is essential, this method was literally a lifesaver. While my classmates were pulling desperate all-nighters before major exams, cramming frantically and consuming dangerous amounts of caffeine, I was sleeping peacefully, completely confident in my preparation. They'd ask me, "Aren't you worried about tomorrow's exam?" And I'd genuinely reply, "Not really. I know I won't forget what I've learned." Now, some of you might be thinking, "This sounds great, but I'm just not good at memorizing things. My brain doesn't work that way." Let me tell you something crucial. Being bad at memorizing usually just means you haven't discovered the right method yet. This approach works for everyone because it's based on fundamental principles of how all human brains actually function. However, some people might need to spend more time on the understanding phase, while others might need more frequent testing, and that's perfectly normal and acceptable. The key is persistence and patience with yourself. Don't expect perfection immediately. Like any skill, this method improves with practice. Research consistently shows that people who persist through initial difficulties and refuse to give up ultimately outperform those who are naturally gifted but lack determination. Your willingness to keep trying is more valuable than any innate talent. Here's your mission. Should you choose to accept it, I want you to practice this method right now, on the information you just learned from this explanation. Close your eyes and blurt out the two-step method using your own words. Can you remember both steps clearly? Excellent. Now test your understanding. Why does the blurting technique work so effectively? Why is spaced repetition more powerful than daily review? If you can answer these questions confidently, you've just proven that this method works. You've learned something and understood it deeply enough for long-term retention. Your brain is an incredible instrument capable of learning and remembering virtually anything. The only difference between students who struggle and those who excel is that successful students use their brains correctly. You now possess this secret knowledge. You understand how to read something once and remember it forever, how to transform your mind from a leaky bucket into an impenetrable vault. But knowledge without action is worthless. You must actually implement this method consistently. Start small. Choose one subject, one chapter, even one page, and practice until this approach becomes as natural as breathing. I guarantee that after just 1 month of consistent application, you'll never want to return to your old, inefficient studying habits. You'll wonder how you ever learned anything without this method. Your brain is ready. Your method is proven. The only remaining question is, are you ready to transform your academic life forever? I believe in your potential. Now go out there and show the world what your amazing mind can accomplish.